people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. This past weekend, Pennsylvania's own unbeaten up-and-comer Liana Cruz, who campaigns in the women's super flyweight division, advanced to a professional record of 10-0 and recorded her very first KO. Her power is coming along. If you've seen Liana Cruz in action, you'll know that she's a hard puncher, though at least in previous instances hasn't proven to be the strongest finisher. But she's working on that, stopping Belgium's Amy Naert in the second round in a contest scheduled for 8. A productive year last year. She fought 3 times last year, and she's already fought once this one, leaving the rest of it for her to have even more developmental fights. She needs them. She doesn't have no amateur background.
Whatever she's learning, she's literally learning on the job, fight by fight.
Brash and ballsy, outspoken. She reminds me of as an East Coast Sinicia Estrada. Stopping her opponent in just 2 rounds at the very start of the year, she now has the rest of it to schedule even more fights. And things are going to get a lot more serious for her moving forward, because it just so happens that Liana Cruz already has a cushy spot in the WBA's rank standings. Liana comes in at number 3. Behind former champion Maribel Ramirez, who currently is ranked at number 2, but is set to lose ground as a result of her recent loss to Mizuki Hiruta.
WBO champion.
Maribel challenged Mizuki for her WBO title this past weekend on the West Coast and lost, so I expect that in the WBA's next ranked standings, Liana will be ranked ahead of her.
Ranked ahead of Maribel is Mexico's own Regina Chavez.
She's ranked at number 1, and you want to pay attention to Regina, rather the fight that she's about to have. You want to pay attention to the Regina Chavez versus Jasmine Artiga fight coming up in March for what is the WBA Super Flyweight title, the vacant title.
Remember, Argentina's own Clara Lescurat recently retired, left her title vacant, and now it's up for grabs. On March 21st in San Bernardino, California, they're gonna go at it.
Regina Chavez and Jasmine. I like Jasmine Artiga to win the fight. Jasmine Artiga, who's been around for a long while, flying under the radar, gradually building her resume,
her abilities,
sporting a professional record of 12 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 6 knockouts. She's a stronger puncher than Regina Chavez with more recorded knockouts, and I've seen her.
She can fight.
So the way it breaks down, Jasmine and Regina are going to fight for the vacant WBA title, at which point I expect Jasmine to win to become this division's new WBA champion, and Liana Cruz will likely become her mandatory challenger. So it looks. I like Jasmine to become champion, but it doesn't get easier after that. It gets harder. Jasmine, that only saw action once, just once last year against Nancy Franco, who she stopped in the first round.
Knocked her out. It's the only fight that Jasmine had last year. She didn't have as productive a year as Liana, who saw action 3 times.
That will be one of the better fights that this division can produce. A Liana Cruz versus Jasmine Artiga fight later on this year. I expect that to be ordered.
After Jasmine beats Regina.
Things are finally getting interesting in the women's super flyweight division that really is one of the deeper divisions in all of women's boxing, but perhaps isn't as talked about because the major promotional outfits don't have many, if any, prize stallions at this weight. But that could soon change.
Yes.
So let's recap. In March, Jasmine is going to fight Regina. I think she's going to beat her. I think she's going to become WBA champion. After that, I expect Liana Cruz to challenge her. And who wins between them? That's a conversation for another day.
In men's featherweight news,
something I did not expect. Rafael Espinoza prefers undisputed run over climb in weight, where I thought that he would be moving up from 126 up to 130? Nope, he wants to stay at 126. And he wants to go for undisputed. Commerce, California. Whenever the offers and negotiations begin to emerge, Rafael Espinoza can formally decide his next career steps. But if he could have it his way and base it on the way he feels such comfort in fighting as the WBO featherweight champion now, Espinoza would prefer to strive for undisputed status in his division rather than seek riches in a heavier weight class. Elevating into his stature as a world champion, Mexico's 30-year-old Espinoza, 26-0 with 22 KOs, repeated his 2023 win over Cuba's Rotisserie Ramirez in December by stopping him in the 6th round, when Ramirez said he could no longer see out of an eye due to a fractured orbital bone.
Rotisserie Ramirez, he's one of those amateurs that he was a great amateur, but perhaps not so great a pro.
I don't mean to kick him when he's down. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying I don't think when Rotisserie went pro, so many people expected his career to be going this way. This victory came just before Espinoza's countryman, WBO junior lightweight title holder Emmanuel Navarrete, successfully defended his belt with an impressive knockout over former 2-division champion Oscar Valdez. And it's believed promoted Top Rank would like to stage a showdown between the two because Espinoza, at 6'1", has room to grow. Yet in an interview with Boxing Scene on Friday, as he attended a title defense by his gym mate, Mizuki Hiruta, Espinoza said he is content focusing on the idea, "I'm trying to get better and improve with every fight." Of Navarrete possibly being his next foe, he said he's aiming towards an April return bout, and that Navarrete for now is not what I want.
He wants undisputed, and I won't begrudge him that, but you could definitely make the argument that Emmanuel is the reason he doesn't want to move up.
I want to defend my titles and unify whoever's a featherweight champion now, any of them, that's who I want, Espinoza said. I know I'm the best of all of them. I'm confident I can beat any of these champions. I want all the titles. Will Navarrete offer a quality purse? Espinoza believes his earnings will be just fine in pursuit of the current featherweight champions Brandon Figueroa, who's got the WBC, Angelo Leo, who's got the IBF, and Nick Ball, who's got the WBA. I know, but I can make the same. Good money here, and I can keep making the weight, he said. He's intrigued by the Ball fight because of the height disparity.
Yeah, Rafael Espinoza is a very big 126-pounder, and Nick Ball is a very small one.
That would be a historic fight, Espinoza said, because I'm the tallest champion ever in a division and Nick Ball is the shortest of all time. A lot of people would love to see that fight. Espinoza, of course, is also keeping his eyes on the boxing landscape, knowing that if he can work to clean out the division this year, that undisputed junior featherweight champion Naoya Inoue should be ready for a move to featherweight by early next year. I would love that fight, he said.
So he wants to keep fighting guys that are smaller than he is. That's the crux of it.
That for going up there to 130 and fighting the very awkward and dangerous Emmanuel Navarrete, you can stay put and make the same money and history in the process, because let's be honest, when's the last time you saw a unified featherweight champion, let alone an undisputed one? I get the gist of it, and I'm not against it.
So I ain't gonna sugarcoat it either. It seems to me Emmanuel is what's keeping Rafael at 126.
The byproduct of Rafael's continued run as WBO featherweight champion is Bruce Carrington may have to change course. He may have to change his plans. Initially, I thought that Bruce Carrington, who's ranked at number 1, and Arnold Kagai, who's ranked at number 2, I thought they'd be fighting for the newly vacated WBO title after Rafael moves up. But since he's not moving up,
I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if Bruce wants that fight right now.
I don't know about that. Maybe he goes another route. Say the IBF route, to target the winner of Angelo Leo versus Tomoki Kameda
for the IBF.
Maybe Nick Ball for his WBA. I would say Brandon Figueroa for his WBC, but that kid's eyes are way too far apart.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Needs to be said, things are shaking, rattling, and rolling in the men's featherweight division as Angelo Leo is set to travel to Japan to defend his IBF. Brandon Figueroa is supposed to be having a rematch with Stephen Fulton in defense of his WBC.
Nick Ball's going to be taking on TJ Doheny in defense of his WBA at a time when Rafael Espinoza wants to go on an undisputed run. My honest opinion is he beats all of them.
He's got height like Brandon Figueroa, power like Nick Ball, and pressure.
He beats them all.
Though will he get the chance? When you think about Nick Ball, for example, Nick is a bigger draw in Liverpool than, say, Rafael is here in America.
I ain't making excuses for him. I'm saying that's what the issue's gonna be. Nick Ball sells more in Liverpool than Rafael does in America, so if you want him, you might have to go over there, and that's if he even obliges you.
Might not. I think Rafael's best bet to get another champion in the ring would have to be via the IBF against the winner of Angelo Leo versus Tomoki Kamita.
Get him.
Whoever wins that fight, whether it's Angelo and he keeps his belt or Tomoki and he doesn't, Rafael beats the winner of that fight. I think he beats Brandon Figueroa too, because he's better than Brandon at what Brandon tries to do. Oh, Brandon's big for this weight, like Rafael is big for this weight, but Rafael is bigger and better, punches harder. I think Rafael Espinoza would Brandon his Figueroa. I expect Brandon to beat Stephen Fulton in their upcoming rematch. I expect that Brandon may knock him out,
And Rafael would knock him out if he got the opportunity.
So this is where Top Rank needs to make a power play. Many of the PBC's fighters are popping up on other sides of the street. One and some of their champions as well. Brandon could be one that pops up on yours for the right price. Take some of that money you were going to spend on Teofimo Lopez's next fight and spend it on this one, because this is a fight that could get Rafael over the hump. Americans don't normally pay attention to the lower weights.
Featherweight falls under that bracket.
They don't pay attention to that division as much as some others, but this is a fight that would make them stand up and pay attention. Two of the bigger guys in the featherweight division, PBC versus Top Rank.
Figueroa versus Espinoza would get people's attention if you made it, but to make it, you have to pay to play. You gotta spend some money!
You were about to give Teofimo Lopez $2.8 million for a Matias fight. $2.8 million ain't all that fight would have costed you. Take some of that money and dedicate it to this fight. You give Brandon 1.5, you give Rafael 1.5.
Come on.
You know featherweights don't cost a lot of money. Even the ones with belts, even the champions, they run cheaper than the guys at the higher weights. So 1.5 is something in that neighborhood might actually get it done. And that's what you were going to give to a fighter who's constantly taking shots at you, constantly trashing you, constantly giving you a hard time. For wasting that money on Teofimo, you could dedicate that to Rafael.
Come on, Todd.
Might seem like a lot for a couple of super featherweights, but remember, you were about to waste that on Teofimo Lopez. So why not dedicate that to this guy? You could do this fight in Texas, where there's a large Mexican contingent that I'm sure would show up for this fight, or you could do it on the West Coast, where there's an even larger Mexican contingent. The West Coast, the Southwest, you could do it!
Stop playing around, Todd.
A Mexican national versus a Mexican American, both belt holders, both champions in the same weight class. You can sell that.
Brandon don't speak a lick of Spanish.
All the more reason to punch him in the face.
In the mouth.
You could go after the IBF title, the winner of Leo versus Kamita, but I don't think that fight would do for Rafael what this one could. This makes a bigger splash. It's a bigger blip on the radar. Figueroa versus Espinoza!
Crawford.
This is the one I think they should go after. And with so many of the PBC's fighters and some of their champions popping up on other sides of the street, now is the right time to pursue it. The time is now.
If Rafael wants to stay at 126 and Rafael wants to unify, then this is a whale of a fight for him. This is the one I think they should dedicate time and attention to, and hopefully they do.
Target, Fish-Eyed Brandon, Fish-Eyed Figueroa. And finally, in men's lightweight news, per Salvador Rodriguez of ESPN, otherwise known as Chavez. They are about to finalize the rematch between William Zepeda and Tevin Farmer for March 29th in Cancun. The fight will now be for 12 rounds for the interim WBC lightweight title. Yo Costavalle is in negotiations to join that show. She recently became a 2-time minimum weight champion, and she's a 3-weight champion overall. I wonder if her next fight is going to be a title defense or a unification match. We'll see. But the story here is they're running it back. Tevin Farmer wasn't lying. He's the first who made mention of a potential rematch between him and William, but that's not all he said.
He also said that Zepeda and his team want me to sign a rehydration clause for the rematch.
To try and weaken him, to make it easier for William to knock him out, because why would two guys that campaign at the same weight, why would one of them request a rehydration clause? Tevin Farmer's a smaller fighter that moved up in weight. He used to fight at super feather.
Why are you trying to stick weight stipulations on him?
I can guess. Tevin Farmer said that there was supposed to be anti-doping testing in his previous fight with William Zepeda per the contracts that they signed, but there was none. There was no testing before the fight, and there was no testing after the fight. But if the contract stipulated that there would be, this constitutes a breach,
giving him grounds to file suit.
Golden Boy Promotions knows that. They know they didn't honor the agreement as it was, and thus, they're giving him a second crack at the apple. Now, why is Tevin Farmer taking it? Why isn't he pursuing legal action? It's because even if he did, that would take months.
And lawyers ain't cheap.
Could be a long while before you see a single red cent from a potential lawsuit where this is faster. And this time, they'll have the anti-doping testing conducted that they didn't have in the first fight, which is why Williams' team wants a rehydration cap.
Trying to stick a weight clause on him.
Since they're going to be tested this time where they weren't the first time, they want some other kind of edge over Tevin Farmer, some other kind of advantage, and sticking a rehydration clause on him, that'd do it. If you doubt me and my rationale, ask yourself, why is Golden Boy doing a rematch for this fight? William beat the hell out of this guy. Outside of that flash knockdown that Tevin Farmer scored, the rest of the fight was all William Zepeda. He beat the brakes off of him. The only thing he didn't do was knock Tevin out. So why are they doing a rematch?
For a fight that William Zepeda so clearly won. Why?
Putting together a show ain't cheap, you know. It's a lot of people to pay. It's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of stuff. They're not going to do a rematch for no reason. I think if they're doing one where one isn't necessary,
it's to satisfy Tevin Farmer so that he don't call the lawyers. That if you take that victory and run, he might run to his lawyers. This satisfies what you both want. He might want to run it back on an even playing field, and you don't want to get sued.
I don't think the second fight is going to go any different. I don't think anything new is going to happen, except maybe this time William will knock him out.
I think William is juicing.
It all looks a certain way. The amount of punches that this guy throws in a round, in a fight, late into a fight, that he can keep that pace. At first, I thought it was because William hails from high altitude, but now, given the complexion of all of this, that there was no testing in his last fight where there should have been, and Tevin blew the whistle, it's giving it away.
Remember, this is a WBC interim title fight. What happened to the WBC's clean boxing program?
And why would you be fighting this guy again? Oscar De La Hoya is the same guy who not but a week or so ago said there's no need for a Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney rematch. There's no need for a rematch between them, but this you need.
This needs a rematch.
No, maybe you need one so that you don't get sued.
Tevin is signing up for this.
Yeah, because in Tevin's mind, he feels that he'll be on more even terrain with William in the second fight than he was in the first, because in the second fight, they're going to get tested. That's likely why he's doing it. He thinks he can win.
But I doubt it.
My opinion aside, if Tevin is going along with this after everything he said, that would be the why.
I knocked him down before. This time I'm gonna knock him out, because he won't have his special sauce.
That's what he thinks.